maybe think about the themes that might be present in the book, and it's distracting. Hello everybody, welcome to March's Indie Book Club. We're so close to spring, but first we must get through the Ides of March, which, if you are literary, which I assume you are because you're here, y'all know that's today. Which, not a great day for Caesars, but a pretty good day for everyone else because it's right in between Pi Day and St. Patrick's Day, which are two of the best days. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about where we are right now. This month we are discussing the military fiction dark comedy, The Gopher King, by Gojan Nikolich. I hope I got that right. I really do. As you might have guessed, this book features gophers pretty heavily. So for this month's Indie Book Club, I've enlisted the help of a special friend.
Hi everybody, it's great to be here. My name's Rocky and I love this book. That's right, I'm literate. Deal with it.
Okay, that's great. Rocky will be back a little bit later, but for now, we're going to start out, like we always do, with a book summary. In the middle of both a mysterious murder investigation of a local woman and a rash of suspicious wildfires, Stan, a small-town newspaperman, veteran, and recent widow, embarks on a sightseeing/soul-searching trip to Vietnam. As the only survivor of a bloody ambush during the war, he hopes the trip will alleviate some of his post-traumatic wounds. Upon his return to his home in Wyoming, he is befriended by an ancient, rock-and-roll t-shirt-wearing gopher commando named Chaz. In addition to his hobbies of watching YouTube, playing the stock market, and buying junk off of QVC, Chaz is in command of an army attempting to stymie the development of a new resort. As unlikely, and unbelievable, a friendship as it seems, the Gopher King and his crew may be the only ones who can help Stan redeem himself from the horrors of his past. So if that book summary on its own wasn't enough to sell you on why you should read this book, I've got 3 good reasons why you should take a chance on this thing right here. 1 part powerful military fiction. I have attempted multiple times to sit down and watch Apocalypse Now. I've just never really made it, even to turning it on. I don't know if it's a girl thing, more likely it's just a me thing, but military movies, they're just not my thing. I don't know if it's the fact that it's a movie and it's so in your face and it moves so fast and it's very graphic that I'm just like, no. Reading it in written word and being able to really absorb the language and the imagery and take your time with it, like your own personal time with it, that was very moving and very powerful to me, especially when it's so well done. It is, heartbreaking, it is scary, and it is, it's gross at times. There are definitely moments that stick with me still in it and still make me cringe. The way things are described, the way the remains after a battle are described, and I'm going to just leave it at that. All of that is put right up front. The trip to Vietnam happens almost immediately. There's a couple of things that happen beforehand, but then he's in Vietnam. He's taking you through these flashbacks and all of these horrors and all of these, really visceral memories, which not only is a very compelling reason to keep reading, but it's also enough to kind of shock your own brain into, okay, this is horrible. I can understand why you would be traumatized by this, and it kind of sets you up for what happens next and for why the craziness that comes after he gets back to Wyoming gets so crazy. It also makes you feel way more relieved when you start seeing magic gophers show up. You're like, I would much rather hang out with a bunch of magic gophers than Vietnam. Twitter poll, I'll put it out there. We'll see what everyone has to say. I'm predicting magic gophers by a lot, but that's just me. 1 part surrealist Caddyshack fanfic. That is exactly what it sounds like. If you know Caddyshack, you know that I can't even say main rivalry, but one of the more hilarious rivalries in the movie is between Bill Murray's character, groundskeeper Carl, and the menace gopher that keeps digging holes out on the greens. And he goes through escalating ways of trying to get rid of this pest. So it's that, but instead of a groundskeeper at a resort, it's the resort itself. It's like the management of a giant resort. And instead of one gopher that's just a gopher dancing around to Kenny Rogers, you have like thousands of gophers with mini helicopters and tiny little guns and really bad attitudes. And like that is literally the other part of this book. That's the dark comedy part of this book, which after you spend the first, I would say about 50 pages maybe, the first segment in Vietnam, that's where you want to be. Like, you're so happy to be in this insane world. An all-around superb literary tale. So there were a number of times when I was reading this book where I was reminded of another book that I read that's actually on my shelf. You can't see it, but it's up there. And it's called Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. It's a book that's kind of got similar themes and sort of a similar main character. I won't go too far into it, but basically the main character in that book is she lives out in the Polish kind of countryside. It's the middle of winter. She's very isolated. She's very of nature, and she's kind of seen as a nut job, although that's different from this character who's, as a newspaper man and a war veteran, he's looked on with high regard, even though he may not be totally stable. But what is similar are the themes of when you screw with nature, you get natural consequences, and pulling together these sort of external battles that portray that that conflict of man versus nature, or really nature versus man, I suppose, and the internal struggles of what's going on in the characters' lives. Yes, there's all this stuff happening on the outside in the Gopher King and in Drive Your Plow, but what you're reading it for is the character. They're both told in first person. They're very unique voices, very strong voices, and the story, despite it having plot, external plot, you're reading it because of the characters, and that's the strongest argument to read any literary book, is because you're loving the character, you're loving spending time in their head, in their world, which is very true of the Gopher King. For our next segment, I'd like to welcome back our subterranean friend, Rocky.
Welcome back, me! This month's writer takeaway discussed the difference between commercial fiction and literary fiction,
which we've actually covered in previous videos, but today we're going to talk about how, as a writer, you can meld the two kinds of books together to create a best of both worlds situation, not unlike what the Gopher King does.
That's right. This month's writer takeaway is writing lit fic for commercial readers.
Now, before we dive into this, let's recap the difference between commercial fiction and literary fiction. Commercial fiction is typically plot-based and really tied to that inciting incident, rising action, falling action sort of structure. And other than that, there's not a whole lot to go on in terms of character development or deeper themes.
While literary fiction is largely character-driven and expresses deeper themes through complex symbolism, it also tends to operate at a higher reading level.
So as far as examples go, Catcher in the Rye is probably one of the highest literary fiction titles out there.
And something like The Da Vinci Code is classic commercial fiction.
And we could go back and forth all day about which one is better, probably.
Which is Catcher in the Rye.
But really, it comes down to, like most art, the eye of the beholder and what the impact and general experience is for the reader.
That's Catcher.
Regardless of your opinion, there is criticism to be leveled at both. I mean, a lot of people say literary fiction is a little full of itself and meandering, and others say that commercial fiction is shallow and inelegant.
Which it is.
Oh, but literary fiction isn't arrogant at all?
Maybe if you're stupid.
Hey, what did I say about using that word?
Said I can't use it.
That's right, now you know the rules. Go to a corner, 5 minutes. I'll be timing you. For all you literary writers out there, if you're trying to maybe thinking about adding a little bit more commercial draw to your book, for whatever reason you want to appeal to more readers, you want to sell more, you want an easier pitch maybe, Here's how you can add a little bit of commercialism, just a little, to your book to help it appeal to commercial readers. The first thing is, what is commercial fiction known for? It's plot. Add a plot. Add an interesting plot. Add something that is beyond just what is going on in the character's head. More than just Michael got up, he ate a sandwich, he stared out the window, he went to the park, he fed the birds, he came home, he watched TV, he went to sleep. If you were to just write the actions and take out all of the character thought going on, like that is what happens in a literary book. Not all literary books, and probably not any literary books, that exact story, but like if you were to write down the action of certain literary books, there wouldn't be a whole lot going on, which is why sometimes it feels a little like they're not doing anything. I would argue, as I will with most of these points, that the Gopher King is a good example. It has a good amount of plot, but that plot is tied into what's going on in his head very, very closely, really. Which brings me to the next point, which is have an outer conflict as well as an inner conflict. Literary fiction is great when it comes to building up internal struggles. It's pretty much the cornerstone of literary fiction. There's nothing in the rules that says that you can't add some sort of external thing, and some sort of commercially appealing external thing. And again, Gopher King does this really well. At the beginning of the book, there's a murder. There's a spate of wildfires going on that nobody can control. There's peril all the time. And it's interesting. It adds levels of danger. It adds levels of mystery. But it never overshadows what's going on with the character, with his mental development, his character development, his desire to redeem himself for his actions during the war. And the Gophers, as crazy as it sounds, are the wild and insane glue that holds all of it together, because they are interacting with both conflicts, which is just amazing. I really can't stress enough how much I love the Gophers. One thing I'll say about the external conflict is that maybe the murder wasn't necessary. I'm not totally sure how it even resolved or how it fit into the plot. It was sort of given as like a hook in the beginning, and then I feel like it didn't go anywhere for a really long time, and I'm not sure that you needed it in addition to the fire, because the fire was omnipresent. Like, it was always there. Not omnipresent, but just ever present. I felt like that was enough peril and mystery, especially once we found out it was not a natural occurrence, to draw me in to the danger of the situation. So the murder kind of felt like a hat on a hat, a little bit. Third thing you can do, maybe the most important thing, stakes. Stakes. That's the other thing about literary fiction, is because it's so personal and one character, one like journey in your brain, the stakes seem to be almost nothing. And if you don't care about the character or you don't like the character, they are nothing. Or they start out in a non-ideal place, trying to get to a better place. Commercial audience looks at that and they're just like, so I don't care if this guy gets off the couch and does his laundry today. Like, that, what does that matter? I have laundry too. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to write a book about that. So having external stakes, or at least some sort of stakes that mean that something is going to happen to the character that's bad if he doesn't or she doesn't make their journey, their internal journey, a success, instead of just like, oh, you're just miserable for the rest of your life. Adding some other type of consequence would also help draw in a commercial audience and make them care a little bit more. And lastly, and this is probably the easiest one to deal with, be cognizant of the vocabulary you're using. You know, I don't want to say dumb it down because that sounds bad, but just, you know, limit the number of $5 words you're using. For example, instead of a word like cognizant, use be aware of, or pay attention, or look out for. You know, I know we're like, don't use 3 words when one will do, but readability sometimes requires more simple words than one difficult word. Along with that, consider your sentence structure, keep it simple, just, subject, verb kind of thing. If you cut down the number of semicolons as a general rule, I feel like that is just a good start. And then you can go from there. And if you're a commercial writer looking to lit up your books, to coin a phrase there, you basically just take this advice and you apply it in reverse. So you add more sophisticated language, you examine the themes that may already be there and emphasize them through symbolism, and you can make room for your character development outside of the main plotline. Hi.
Hello, I'm back.
You ready to behave yourself?
Yeah. Can I do the wrap up?
I guess.
Alright everyone, it's time for the wrap up. The Gopher King is a gut-wrenching tale of tragedy and loss that is also generally heartwarming and at times hilarious. It attempts to put you on the roller coaster of what living with PTSD must be like, but exposing you to the horrors of war and exactly what our hero is desperately trying to escape. Despite an arguably unnecessary plot device or two, it never fails to deliver on the lesson that, no matter how much time has passed, redemption is never out of reach, and it may come from the most unlikely places.
Like a gopher.
Yeah, like me.
All right, thank you, Rocky. Good boy. And thank you all for watching today. Tune in next month when we will be talking about the multicultural LGBTQ romance Fernando by Vegas' own Chanel Hardy.
And of course, like and subscribe to our channel, visit our Medium page, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time!
This was fun. Did you like your trailer?
That was alright. Not enough food.
Really? We put like 20 pounds of carrots and stuff in there. You eat carrots, right?
No.
You don't eat, what do you eat?
Mostly meat.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Children, other gophers.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right.
I mean, I know what I eat. I don't know what I'm supposed to eat. But
That's a little scary.
eating gophers. Like and subscribe.